What up, homeboys? There has been a lot of balance changes. There's even more coming today that we gotta take a look at, guys. And that means that we gotta do a new tier list. Our tier list got old. Also, we got a lot better data now. We got a lot of good beta data on the 90th percentile. Okay, I don't like looking at the top 1%. That was what we were forced to look at the start of the tier. But now we can look at like the top 90% people in the world of every class. I don't like looking at the top 1% because that's just cheesing it, and I don't like looking at the top 95% because that's the tryhard guilds players and stuff like that. 90% means, for me at least, that is somebody that plays their class very well and is doing a reasonable amount of effort, but is not going out of their way to buy like an 800 gold piece of gear or something like that, you know? So from the perspective of a guy that tries, a guy that is good and plays their class properly, but isn't like a 20-hour-a-day degenerate, what are the best classes in the game right now? Believe it or not, Frost actually got buffed and is now a pretty decent class. I don't know exactly how the class is working right now, but by the numbers they are doing about C tier. And C tier, for what they used to be, which was a complete meme, actually let's type meme in here, they got a lot better. Now we're gonna see the Red Paladin. Okay, the Red Paladin is still, like I said in my previous tier list, is one of the best classes in the game. It can ignore armor now, they do insane damage. They are, depending on the day, the third or the best DPS in the game in the numbers per se. And that is insane because Red Paladins have a lot of utility. They got the blessings, they got the auras, they got a stone in the form of rebuke now, which is also very important in Eranicus, for example. They are just amazing, and Red Paladins will be S tier once again. They are great. Now the Shadow Priest, this is not nearly as important in the Alliance as it is in the Horde, because in the Alliance they got Paladins to dispel, but in the Horde, the Priests in general are very important because they can dispel magic. Of course, Priests can also purge, and you need them in 2 fights in Sunken Temple to purge, so that's also very important. And of course, the most important part of it, what is it? That the healer Priests do not wanna run Homunculi. You need Homunculi to buff the melees. It's super important, but no Holy Priest wants to run it. So with a Shadow Priest, you can actually get somebody that wants to run it, and they are gonna do okay damage. They got a decent AoE now. Boilstone is pretty overpowered. The base damage is very high. It doesn't scale much. But overall, the Shadow Priest, even though the damage is pretty bad, it is still a really good spec. You probably want one in your raid at least for that Homunculi. The Homunculusi. Next we got the Assassin Rogue. Of course, the Assassin Rogue, with that poison weird spec they're doing with daggers, they are doing really good damage. They are the second best DPS in the game. They are beating warriors right now, okay? Taking away the 1% percentile, where like warriors are still beating everybody, the Rogue is kicking butt right now. Serious butt in the dagger department. So Assassin Rogue is gonna go to S tier. Combat Rogue is falling behind, okay? Now the cool thing about Combat Rogue, even though it was falling behind, is that we got a hotfix today, yesterday actually, kinda late, depends on the time zone. We got a hotfix that they buffed the damage of Saber Slash by 15%. I mean, that's not huge. That's probably not gonna get them up to par with the Assassin Rogue, but they are gonna be a solid B tier guy, which for a rogue that's pretty good, I guess. I don't know if you wanna play swords that bad, you can, I guess. Subtlety, as far as I know, is still not being good. I don't know much about the Subtlety Rogue. I never play Rogue, to be quite honest with you guys. I just hate the Rogue. But yeah, there's right there. Now the Boom King got 2 buffs today. Also, one of them was Gale Wind reduces the cost of Hurricane, so they don't have the cooldown on Hurricane anymore because of that rune, but they also now get a less, I think half the mana cost. So they are still not great for AoE DPS, but they can go deep AoE for longer, and you can definitely feel this. I think this buff in particular is aimed at fixing them in Eranicus. If you take like a bunch of Boonkins in Eranicus, you're gonna struggle. Now they're gonna be quite a bit better, so I guess that's good news. They also, and this is the big one, they made it so your weapon, the one that gives you Omen, that talent, the natural weapons talent I think it's called in the balance tree, it now gives you 10% damage when casting 2. So they used to do around B tier damage, and now they take 10% more damage, so that would take them to A. And I would say they are going very high A because they are also giving casters the crit, and that utility is massive. First of all, because you got something like Fire Mage in the meta where they need crit, and there's also Warlocks. There's a lot of casters that really like crit in this meta. So yeah, that 3% crit goes a long way. And for that reason, the Balanced Druid is gonna go to A tier. The Elemental Shaman, on the other hand, cannot really say the same story. They are doing kinda poorly. Of course, you want as many Shamans as you can get, and for your normal 90% guild, you probably would take an Elemental Shaman even if they are not great. They are more or less decent at dealing with Eranicos ads, so you got that going on for them. But for the most part, they are falling really behind of their enhancement brothers, so I'm gonna put them in B tier just because they got good utility. The enhancement shaman, on the other hand, is absolutely kicking, but depending on the day, they are really racing with the retribution paladin here, between being top 3 and top 4 DPS specs. That is amazing, okay? When a warrior is top 4 DPS, it's not that important, but when an enhancement shaman or a red paladin are top 4 DPS, that's massive because they didn't even need the damage. They got totems, they got Porsches, they got disease cleansing totems, they got tremor, they got all that stuff, they got a bunch of utility that you need, not to mention Wind Fury, and that means that you wanna get a bunch of these guys if you can, so they are gonna go S tier again. Now for the Warlock, I don't wanna be mean and call Affliction and Demonology a meme, but I feel I have to put them in a meme, because why would you take an Affliction or a Demonology Warlock over a Destruction Warlock right now? I just see no reason to do that, honestly. Like, they are the same thing and Destruction is just better. That's the fire build. So okay. Meme for these two specs doesn't mean they are completely useless. It just means you are memeing, brother. Just pick a Destruction Warlock. They are doing very good damage, so they are gonna go to A tier. Of course, Warlocks are not nearly as crucial as they used to be in American right now. They are decent, they got a few tricks up their sleeve, but all they bring really now is damage and courses, and that's still good. They are still very good, but they are not as good as they were in American. That was busted. Now, the Arms Warrior is also very weak right now. I would say it's a C tier DPSer. They bring nothing to the table really that the other classes do not bring, and better, they just bring damage like any other warrior, but Arms is falling behind. The problem with Arms, and this is a really deep problem, is that they just do not scale. Mortal Strike has I think, I made the math a long time ago, a 14% damage attack power scaling. Compare that to the Bloodthirst, like 45%, or they don't even go Bloodthirst anymore. They just take a bunch of busted Fury talents and do like an auto-attacking build with deep wounds. And ever since they normalized deep wounds, it doesn't really matter if you got a big two-handed or not, so that was a big hit for Arms in general. And Fury, even though it's not quite Fury, it is like they are going all the way down to Flurry, and then they are going for deep wounds, but it is still a top of the line spec right here. It is the 3rd or 4th DPSers. Sometimes they are beating Assassin rogues right here. They are probably on the 3rd spot right now. Of course, top 1% is Warrior all the way. It's always going to be at the top 1%. But of course, if you're looking at the top 10%, what I would call the good, normal players, they are 3rd. They are doing really good. There's no reason why you shouldn't take a Fury Warrior if you know they are decent. So we're gonna do that. Now the Feral Cat, against all the odds really, is doing really decent damage. It is the 6th, I believe, in DPS right now. And of course that really doesn't tell the whole story with the cat, because the cat has two crucial buffs that make the whole raid work, okay? You look at the Fury Warrior, you look at the Enhancement Shaman, and you look at the Assassin Rogue, why they are pumping so much, the Red Paladin too, I guess. Why are they pumping so much damage? And that's because they always have a Feral Cat in the top parses, okay? Feral DPSers bring two very important buffs, okay? First buff, Leader of the Pack, that's 3% crit. 3% crit is not a huge deal for a Red Paladin, let's say, but it is a massive thing for a Fury Warrior, for example. You really 3% crit on a Fury Warrior that is doing everything he can to get like that top damage. It adds up exponentially. Also, they got Mangle, and Mangle buffs all bleeding damage by 30%. If you look at the parses of a Fury Warrior, deep wounds is about 22% of their damage, okay? So let's say you got a warrior doing 1000 DPS, which is not that crazy anymore, okay? That's a pretty, that's not a rare sight anymore. The Feral Cat is doing like 100 of that DPS just by bringing in Mangle. So if you do not have a Feral Bear as a tank and you need that buff, get a cat. They are amazing, they are going on A. Now we got the Beast Mastery Hunter. That's a funny way to call it, because right now the melee Hunter build is Beast Mastery. They're just going for pet bonus. That's what I predicted, and I got wrong on phase 2. I thought people were gonna do this, but then they nerfed survival to the ground, so now it works. But Beast Mastery is the way to go if you're a melee hunter. You get all the pet damage bonuses, and you just do flanking strike, and you rely on your pet to do damage with your flanking strike. They are up there. They are the top DPS pick right now. They are not that easy to pilot anymore, but they are still fairly easy to pilot for the damage they pump, and they are like top of the line damage. So yeah, Beast Mastery Hunter is absolutely bonkers. You wanna take one of these. The Range Hunter Marksmanship is also doing decent. They got a bunch of buffs, including like I think Aim Shot got a buff. So yeah, they are doing more damage and they are about B tier. I mean, they are okay. I would take one. I wouldn't be that mad if I had to take a Range Hunter in my raid, but they are not nearly as good as the super broken, disgusting, stupid, completely ridiculous melee Hunter. So they got that going on for them. And Survival is just a meme right now. Survival is not working at all. Agren has even made a question on Twitter the other day, like, what do you like us to buff out of the Survival tree so we can make Survival work again? I don't think that's a good idea, but he wants to do that, and like that's quite a good sign right there that the Survival Hunter is not working out. If you wanna go melee, you go Beast Mastery. I like the Beast Mastery build more anyway. Okay, that's the part that is crazy. I don't even like Survival. But yeah, that's what people want, I guess. I don't know. The Fire Mage is up in the air spec right now because it is doing very well in the long fights. Your Eranicus's fights, your Atalai Warden's fights, something like that, they are doing pretty good. But on the shorter fights, and there's quite a few of those too, like Atalarion, they are doing very poorly. Now, I always like a Fire Mage because they help you meet the DPS checks on the ads in Eranicus, and if you are a normal raid, probably that's gonna be the part where you struggle the most in Eranicus. Although it seems right now that as people are getting more gear, the Frost with that Balefire Bolt is doing a little better on single target. So that might become an issue. We're gonna have to see the data in a few days. Agren has said that they're gonna do even more changes to the mage, so I am not very confident in telling you that it's gonna stay this way for very long. It probably won't. Arcane, on the other hand, is a complete meme, okay? Arcane DPS is absolutely dead. It doesn't work. Arcane is a very good healer, but a good healer a DPSer does not make. And that really takes care of the whole build right there. You can see it's not as imbalanced as it once was at the launch of the tier, but I don't think it's very sustainable. There's a lot of bunker stuff. Like, I think they went a little too hard on buffing the melees. Maybe they should tune the armor a little bit higher again. And what I would like to see actually, guys, is I would like them to tune down the HP of bosses and tuning up the armor a little bit. Of course, I don't know the exact math of what I would do with that, but somebody can figure it out right there. I think that should push the balance to a very close state right now. As you can see, the casters are falling behind in this tier. I think Agren has a really hard time trying to make it so one tier the melees or the casters do not completely take over. But I am not inviting Agren to shaft melees again when I say this. Okay, I want to make that very clear. I just want a tiny tune in here. Less HP, a tiny bit more armor. That's what I would like. Okay, if he shafts the melees, it's not my fault. Okay, you didn't hear it from me. Okay. Subscribe, leave a like, join the Discord, and thank you for watching.